The president's overseas trip included some trademark gaffes, which he's prone to do. He confused Cambodia with Colombia. Not once, but twice. Cambodia is the host nation of the summit that he attended over the weekend.
I want to thank the Prime Minister of Colombia's leadership and the ASEAN chair.
I'm heading down to, first of all, going to Cairo for the environmental effort, then heading over to Colombia, and then, Cambodia. I'm thinking the Western Hemisphere.
10 seconds now. Goodbye.
The president said Democrats showing in the midterm elections made him stronger all over the world heading into today's meeting with Xi. Biden was mostly on the sidelines during the campaign season, as we all know, but Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi and Senator Elizabeth Warren piled on credit anyway to Biden.
President Biden has been a great president for our country. He has accomplished so much. He's put money in people's pockets, vaccines in their arms, children back to school, people back to work, for starters.
This victory belongs to Joe Biden. It belongs to Joe Biden and the Democrats who got out there and fought for working people. The president's leadership put us in a position, every candidate, up and down the ballot, to talk about what Democrats fight for and what we deliver on.
All right, keep that in your head for a second. Kellyanne Conway, Fox News contributor, former senior counselor to President Trump. Let's ask her, what's your reaction?
The last thing Joe Biden should be mentioning abroad were these past elections, because he's inviting world leaders to do to him what his Democratic Party candidates did to him, which is ignore him. And he really endorsed very few candidates overtly and got involved in very few primaries, Harris. But one that sticks out to me is a congressional seat in Oregon, where Kurt Schrader was the incumbent. He lost in the primary, and now we just flipped the seat Republican with a Latina Republican, may I note. So his record on these domestic elections was non-existent to terrible. It's sure, it's one thing that they'll keep the Senate or maybe have a 50-50 Senate, but it's not any kind of mandate for him. I think the best thing that happened to Republicans and worse to Democrats out of last Tuesday is that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will run for president and vice president again. The party is now stuck with them. The other thing is, I would not call attention to the U.S. elections if I were President Biden, because we can't even count the votes in Arizona on time. Oh. Do you think President Xi of China is shaking and scared of the U.S. when we are asking people to verify their own signatures and giving them a couple days to be called and cure their signatures, rather than just ask them to show an ID the way you do in Georgia, which told us on election night who had won and who had lost? But look, these are serious times. I work for a president and a vice president who took China to task. And one of the greatest accomplishments of the Trump-Pence administration is the way that they challenged China. At the G20 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, on December 1st, 2018, President Trump took on President Xi over fentanyl. And we saw action. It was not the #1 killer of 18 to 44-year-olds the way it is now, Harris.
Yeah, it's
in fact, we presided over the first decline in overdose deaths in 30 years. Did President Biden ask him about the Uyghurs, the way President Trump did at the UN with a special event about religious liberty? And of course, the origins of China, the origins of COVID. Joe Biden promised to shut down the virus. Forget that; that's a lie. But we have every right to know where and how it started, to know how to prepare in the future and to hold China accountable.
As you're talking about this, a couple of those issues were what I asked Peter Doocy about, and his answer was technically no. He might have come a little close to COVID, but certainly not about the origins and all of that. Just looking forward right now, what you mean with those 19 outstanding House calls, those races that we still don't know, is what a lot of people are telling me that they're frustrated about. They know that the votes eventually will get counted, because they always do, but after everything the nation's been through, when I run into voters, and I'm talking to many of them through Voters' Voices, there is a concern that we don't have election day information the way that we should, the way that Florida and other states may have. So we'll move on from there. But I totally understand what you're saying, and you're listening to people too. I mean, you're a pollster, so you're also hearing what people are saying. The balance of power in the House is still undecided, as I just said. Well, you can't call it with 19 races still out. Today, House Republicans kick off their candidate forum for leadership positions for the next Congress.
I think people were.
It's the first formal event in what is expected to be a week-long party-wide discussion of Republicans' performance in the midterms. House Republicans inching toward that majority. And Kellyanne, we still think, based on the numbers, they'll get there. The GOP flipping a valuable House seat that you mentioned in Oregon. And the winner of that seat, we can hear from her now. Let's watch.
I think people were tired and frustrated of the high crime that we're seeing in our blue states. They were frustrated with the inflation rising 8.5% in Oregon, not being able to keep up with wages, and the education process. People were frustrated with their kids in school being locked down for too long, so they wanted to speak up and they want work done.
So what worked for Republicans in Oregon?
Well, you just saw it. And she proves again that messengers are as important as message. Candidate quality matters. She was a high-quality candidate, and she worked hard. Listen, some people who worked hard didn't make it. They're first-time candidates. I hope they run again, Harris. But I think it's not enough to not be Biden, and we really failed to get a lot more independents to vote Republican. Usually in the midterms, well, in the last 4 midterms, from 2006 to 2018, the party out of power carried independents by double-digit and over a majority. This time, Democrats won independents 49 to 47. And I think if you were a pro-choice independent, you were much more motivated to vote than if you were, say, an inflation and crime independent. You don't really have the same motivators that you do in a presidential year. But I have this to say, looking forward to 2024, it's a very tough Senate map for Democrats. It was a very tough Senate map for Republicans this time. And more importantly, Harris, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can't tell Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, please don't campaign with us. They're going to need to be out there for their own campaigns. So they're stuck with it. The Democrats are stuck with them, and they're stuck with themselves moving forward.
All right. Well, the next time we get together, we're going to talk about Georgia, because we are inching our way closer to that runoff. And that race still matters, too, because you mentioned a 50-50 possibility for Republicans. That's how you get there. And it would be 51 for Democrats if you don't get there with Herschel Walker. So we'll get into that. Great to see you. Thank you so very much for getting us started.
Thank you, Harris.